So starting with a sample flip, it's important that you choose your sample well. In this case, we'll be looking at something that's not a full sample, but actually one-shots. So these individual one-shots sound pretty good by themselves, but what I did was combine them to make a little loop. So with that loop, what I did was add RC20, an EQ, some vintage verb, a shaper box, and some stereo imaging. So let's listen to how that sounds. With that, what we can do is chop the transients a little bit so they sound a little more filtered. And then what I did was transpose those chords using the top note of each sample. And using a resampled one shot, I created some chords. And laid them on Lounge Lizard. So for effects, I use a multiband compressor to get rid of some mids. I use an OTT. I use RC20 along with some reverb and an EQ. And I want to show you what it sounds like with and without the reverb. And finally, I used a little ambience by using this loop. So let's see what it sounds like all together. To maintain some variety, I like to add little melodies here and there. A lot of the time I use resampled one-shots, so let's take a listen to those. And here I just use a saw wave with a slow attack. Here I use a sine wave with the same chords, but only playing accenting the 1 and the 3 chords. So let's see what they sound like all together. So now let's hear how the drums sound. So the kick is just 4 on the floor, but I made sure to insert some variety here and there. And this is done by using the same kick, but one at a lower volume. So as this episode is about sample chopping, I like to sample chop my drums a lot. And so this is how I turn a full drum break into just a percussion element. So I took the first section of it. I used Ableton's beat warping to emphasize the transients. And I brought the pitch down to get the percussion from a higher frequency range to more of a mid-frequency range. Then with an EQ, a sidechain, and some stereo imaging, this is what they sound like. So let's see how they sound with a kick. Added some one-shots here and there. So to really overemphasize the groove in this, I used a shaker and a hi-hat. And I made sure that they were very off-grid, especially the one right before the clap. So for the clap, I used 2 separate claps, and on accented claps, I made sure to use only one of the sample. And to really overemphasize it, I bring the claps in early before the beat. So together, these 2 elements really define the drums. So the one shot right before the clap is very close to it, and I wanted to show you what it would sound like if it was quantized and not. And of course, to overdo it, I bring the shaker in late. Other percussion elements I use are an open hat and some drum fills. This bass line was a resampled one-shot. Now, when I wanted to add accents to the bass line, I would make sure they lined up with the transients of the delayed shaker and hat. So let's see how it sounds with our kick and percussion. Now, drum fills and percussion aren't the only way to add variety. You can also add melodic fills. So let's see the melodic fills and the chords together. So that's all for this episode. Let me know if you guys have any more ideas in the future, and I'll catch you next time.